Shabbat shalom again, everyone. Nice to
Shabbat
see you
shalom.
all. How are you, Mauricio? Good to see you.
Thank you.
Good. It was a delight to present Pinchas. I always look forward now to the parasha. I understand now how Rabbi used to start preparing from Sunday till the end of the week, because it takes a lot of work to prepare a message, but it always amazes me how much we can see in this and all the pictures that it gives us for us today. So any comments, any thoughts on Pinchas?
I'd like to say it was such a clear presentation, such a picture of what our life is throughout the years and now. It was really, really nice. It's so easy to get caught up in or sidetracked, like you could say, like when you mentioned the Midianite women who were basically used. What a smart way to win, to conquer a country even, is to use, whether it's young children as you see now, or to use women or whatever, and to get sidetracked and say, well, the Midianite women were to blame, and getting caught up in that, when it's about us. Are we turning to God or not? We can't blame other people. These women were used. They were just used. They were like thrown away in a sense, just as children are used by certain religious fanatics, blown up, etc. And I love that. And it's just such a clear picture of how God is calling us to be clear in our commitment to God, and not sidetrack and blame this one and blame that one, or and God gives examples of the Midianite women, and how many of us that it gets down again to what does it mean to be Jewish, and even what your friend was saying. I'll comment on that with you after through some of the things you sent me. The point was not whether God came. Anyway, God came to set apart Israel for a purpose, which was to bring the truth about God and his commandments to the whole world. So in that sense, the commandments were given to the whole world. They were just given to us to deliver. We were set apart just as an envoy or somebody who goes to a nation. If you're given something to bring to a nation, it doesn't mean that you're the only one given the message. You're given that message to convey to the whole world. So that was what we were meant to do. And in our own lives, if we get too caught up in things that aren't really the truth, but well, this one's not Jewish, this one is Jewish. What does it mean? It means, are you following the only one God of the whole universe?
Exactly.
Anyway, it was very clear and very special, your message. So
thank you.
Thank you.
I love the idea of the Brit Shalom. I think all my life I've searched for how to have an inner peace, because everything that happens in this world creates anxiety and chaos and tries to bring us out of that peace. And it started, with me going through, always having pain in my stomach. So that was diagnosed as anxiety, and they wanted to give me pills for it. And I refused the pills and started on a journey, first through foods and vitamins, and then later I looked into the psychology, the emotions, and going into learning how to do self-hypnosis and teaching others about hypnosis, and just all learning about all the different aspects of our being, because we're body, mind, soul, spirit. And in the last part of my life, I've learned about the spirit, the spiritual aspect of things. But I have a habit to always check in and see how my physical body is doing, because it's the reflection of what the inner being is presenting to us. And as I was walking, I had this sense of peace. There was nowhere in my body that was holding anxiety. And I said, that can only come from a peace that God brings us, that Brit Shalom that he handed us, and we have the capacity to have that in this world. Everything will try to take us away from it. But when we continue to deal with everything that comes to attack us, whether it be relationships, whether it be something that we have to do, we're forced to do, excuse me, and it's a full-time job. It really is a full-time job to take care of ourselves so that we can emanate that peace and that light to others. Mauricio, I'm sorry. I didn't have a chance to talk to you this week because I know you always have such interesting aspects of how you see the portion.
Yeah, regarding this portion, honestly, for me, Pinchas is one of that persons that God allows to do something that is not right. I would say it was correct for that time, but it's not something that Torah invite us to reproduce. Okay, because honestly, Pinchas had the same character of his of Levi and Shimeon.
Exactly.
And when they kill a whole town,
right,
and he was very obviously furious. But the point is that it says that he was given the Brit Shalom, but the Bab is broken.
right.
So it's not complete. And yes, he was given the Brit Shalom because, okay, your medicine will be Shalom, and you need to practice Shalom.
Exactly. It doesn't come naturally.
Yeah, it doesn't come naturally for him. For him was naturally to take the spear and kill these two the Ger Cosby and this Simri. By the way, both of them were, and that's something I cannot understand why nobody could rise up in order to stop Simri and Cosby, because according to the Midrash, they have sex relations before all the Sanhedrin.
Wow.
And that's why the Torah in very I would say very proper way use that they were the spear just crossed them, both of them. Yeah, that's the idea.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And so that the deprivation was very high, and people was astonished, and they couldn't make any movement. They just were like
In shock.
what they are in shock what they are doing. And the problem is that yeah, the leaders lead all the people to have all this immorality.
Well, it was like at the base of Mount Sinai when they were waiting for Moshe to come down, the same thing. Because that was the pagan practices. If you were involved, if you saw today in some of these religions, how shall I put it, in the New Age, sexuality has become almost worshipped with Kundalini energy. It's like Tantra, all these sexuality, and these women who were female prostitutes. It had to do with the understanding that that's how, and the spiritual energy was passed through people. They had a reason for it. That's we look at it only as sexuality, but they go much deeper, right to the soul of the being.
Yeah, and they are taking something that honestly, for men, we are weak with our eyes. Okay.
Yes.
And that's how they use the seduction for us. So that is very important to us to keep holy our eyes, because immorality comes for the men, at least comes through the
Yeah,
eyes.
well, in Judaism, they say you can look once, but you can't look twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the woman is hearing, and you know,
Yes, the emotions.
emotions.
The words, right?
But you know, the point is that it's interesting that God didn't approve really what
Pinchas did?
Pinchas did at all. I mean, yeah, it says that he just looked to what Pinchas did. Okay, it doesn't say, "Oh, you did it good. Thank you for defending my honor."
But I thought it says because of what he did, he gave him the Brit Shalom and the Kahunat.
Yeah, but he is God just looking how to destroy Israel, and then suddenly something happened, and that distracts, I would say, the punishment of God into something that is not good. Why? Because according to the Torah, what should Pinchas should do? First, okay, what you are doing simply is not good. Go
Okay.
to a bait din in at that in have a judgment, and then they have to decide what punishment should be done to this man.
Okay, right.
Here, what is doing is, okay, I'm gonna give you the shalom because you need shalom. I
Oh,
will
I
destroy you. Okay,
oh, interesting.
I will not destroy you because I saw your intention. You did
Okay,
it because, okay, you cannot understand. You were in shock too. But the very first thing he did, it was not really to defend God's honor. It was to stop. Okay, it's like when you say it's enough. Okay.
yeah, because he had that nature of the tribe of Levi, who interesting. Yes, beautiful.
So, and that's why his bridge of shalom was not complete. He needed to restore the relationship with the rest.
So if we go to the original, to the scroll, we will see the broken vav and
Yeah,
shalom.
but you know, but in the scroll, yeah, because in internet, not all the
No.
translation have this shalom broken.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if Alejandro he has a Torah.
Yeah, I have it
I don't
here,
know.
but I haven't
Yeah,
found it. I have to look for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So but that is very interesting, and then also it is not a teaching about that we have to do as Pinchas did.
No,
Okay,
it's like Pesach. We don't kill the lamb.
yeah, you
Yeah.
kill the lamb. So so today the teaching is, hey, you have to raise up and say enough, stop. Okay,
Right.
that
Right.
is our work.
Right.
Okay, not kill people, and the problem is that some persons takes this like a theology and teach
Right.
about, okay, kill other human being
Yeah,
in
like
order
that Israeli mandate, remember?
Yeah, Baruch
yeah,
Goldstein, we take things literally. I was talking to a friend how we cannot take the Torah literally in many cases. These are pictures for us to see. And it takes time to step back and to delve like you're doing, Mauricio, into these pictures that God is giving us. It's beautiful.
yeah,
It's
yep. Say, Miriam.
oh no, well, I interrupted. That's another, you could finish what you're saying.
Okay, and also the point is that after that is like Pinchas, what he did is he make a mistake. I would say a mistake, more or less. Okay, because what he did is make another mistake as what is simply doing, and that's why God saw him. Okay, not for a good action, but for a bad action, because he killed a person. Okay, Then we see later that during the judgments day, judges day, according to the Midrash, that is in the Midrash, Pinchas did not have a good relations, I would say, because his character with Jephthah. Okay, remember that the ones
Right,
who
Jephthah, where he said that
first,
the vow, that the first one to come into the house. Yeah, but I couldn't find that anywhere. So they know that Pinchas was the priest
yeah,
at the time of Jephthah.
they have the idea that Pinchas was there.
And he said nothing.
Yeah, he said nothing. He never said, "Oh, Jephthah, you could be forgiven."
Right.
Okay. And during his time, if we read, after that, according to the Midrash, they
Right.
say, okay, the Spirit of God could not stay with Pinchas because he was not capable to make shalom with Jephthah. Okay, that's the bread he received. And then what happened after that episode? Benjamin, remember the woman who was caught in different parts in all Israel, and
Yes.
then they have a war between Benjamin and the rest of the tribes, and almost eliminate this tribe from the map. So that was on the last days of Pinchas. So it seems that if you don't, like you said, okay, yeah, you have what Shimeon and what Levi did during Jacob's time. Now they make some improvements in their lives in order to have to show repentance. But the problem is Shimeon did not, and now they have a problem. And then we see that, yeah, Pinchas received something from God, but he could not make longer this bridge shalom, and that makes something bad for the whole house of Israel. But yeah, and it's interesting that Pinchas means
Nachash, the mouth of the snake.
That's,
The mouth of the snake. Yeah.
And it's connected with what happened. Remember the serpent
On
that
the pole.
everybody had to look. Yeah. So it's connected his name with a portion before the lamb, because it's like, okay, the medicine was the Nachash, and now I send you something dual, which is your how do you say,
it's like having a forked tongue.
Yeah.
You speak out of both sides of your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So and that is great. And by the way, and something that is really interesting is about to look in the future, that God did not break his breed.
No.
Because he says, okay, you will be forever in the house of the Lord, and in like ministry, the priesthood. And it's interesting that we see later that I can't remember right now the quantity, but I think they have a lot of descendants of Pinchas. For example, Ezra.
Right.
He was a Pinchas descendant.
Right.
Or this Zorobabel, I think, if I can remember the name, is another person, if I can remember. but it's interesting that in the future was really true that many of the priesthood were coming from Pinchas.
Wow.
Even he probably did not keep the Brit Shalom, but God complied with his word.
Maybe
Uh,
maybe the Ben Yochanan family from the time of Hanukkah, maybe they come from
yeah,
them.
it
And
was
maybe
Sadok. Sorry, Sadok. Yeah,
Tzadok, oh
yeah,
Tzadukim. And maybe our Rabbi Percy came from them.
yeah.
He had that temper. You never know. And I was looking at this also. Did you see what I saw when it comes to the form of government that God had instituted right here in this portion? It seemed to speak out very strongly to me, where men could go directly to God through the Kohanim, the Urim. You had the lots, they would seek God and come back with an answer. We would have the Beit Din, the judges who would sit and be willing to, this was a theocracy. This is how God would be directly. And we never wanted that. We always wanted a king, we wanted a man. And, but here we're given
But
even in
honestly,
Israel today, they
yeah,
worship democracy as if democracy is the best form of government, and it is not.
yeah, but the problem is the men.
Of
I
course,
mean,
that's why we
because
can't have it.
because you'll never know who is behind this priest. When I see, for example, if you go to the Middle Ages, supposedly God's men rule the world. That is Catholic Church.
Yes,
And you know what they did?
yes,
They
exactly.
they did a mess,
Uh,
and even today.
yeah.
Then and today we can see another theocracy like Afghan or like Boko Haram or like
Well, they say
ISIS.
they are, but they are
Yeah,
not.
yeah, but we know because we are looking for their fruits. But
Exactly.
what about the persons who are inside and they grow and they born in those groups? For
Yes,
example, following these Iranians leaders, they believe
exactly.
they have the word of God, and they say,
Yes,
"Oh, here is the Quran, and here is the."
yeah. And it's the same thing even in Israel when you have the ultra Orthodox, the Hasidim, who are so religious and so strict. If you even
This,
if you even you
yeah,
sorry,
sorry,
you were stuck, so I was continuing to
yeah,
talk. But even in Jerusalem, when you
yeah,
go into the communities of the Hasidim, the ultra Orthodox, and how they become so religious, such fanatics, God isn't asking for that. But you're right. This system cannot be instituted until God changes the heart of humanity.
Yeah, that's what I've
Yeah.
always said that in response, because
Yeah.
democracy, in one sense, look at the Middle East now. The only place that semi-functional, even Israel is not even working, but democracy given our state as
Is the
human beings,
best.
because there are counterbalances.
Yeah.
You can't in a dictatorship have a counterbalance. So even in our country now, we have people rising up in Canada. There are groups that are rising up against things that are happening. I mean, it's a terrible things are going very badly, but you have to have a system that allows a dissenting voice.
Yeah.
yeah. So sorry, I had to take a calling, but yes, it's true. The problem is persons.
Yes.
So it's very hard to know because it's very deceitful in the heart
Yes.
and more for religious people because you have the power over the persons according to you have I would say like behind of you say God is behind me and that's a lot of power and people
Right.
But you know that the point is that even during the Jerusalem time of Yeshua, people knew about how corrupted was
The temple.
all the religious system, the temple. Okay, yeah, some of them followed the rules of the temple, but some of them did not. Why? Because we see some following this Pinchas man. We see the zealots. I don't know how zelotes we say in Spanish,
Yeah,
but
zealots.
the zealots. Yeah, they were a group of Jewish people
Yeah,
who did not follow the rules of Roman Empire, but did not also follow the temple of Jerusalem.
yes,
In many of Yeshua's disciples were zealots.
yes,
So it's very interesting that how these people understood. But honestly, that's why Yeshua tried to explain. Okay, it's not because Yeshua understood this, and it's for me very interesting that it's not by power, by mighty, by his
exactly,
okay.
exactly. And yet he allowed Judas to give him up. Judas was a zealot. He
Yeah,
really believed that he was the Messiah and he was going to be able to bring down the whole Roman Empire if he just showed himself to who he was. People misunderstand who he was.
yeah, he needed that Yeshua was in a position to be destroyed,
Right.
in order that he shows like, oh, I am the one and I will
Yeah,
destroy you, like
exactly.
Pinchas.
Exactly.
And the problem is that Yeshua was teaching them, hey, it's not about destroying people, that you will change hearts.
Right.
You will change about teaching them Torah.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
And you know, so that is why it's so important to learn Torah to our kids, because that's how they have to learn
Yes.
about solve the problems of
Yeah.
their lives with Torah, not with arms, no weapons, no. And so
And yet we do have to take up weapons to defend ourselves, which
yeah,
is why in a government that's not fair, they take the weapons from the people. And then they blame the masses because they will kill each other. And yet if you go to Israel, people are armed and you don't see people killing each other because it's not the guns that kill, it's the heart of the person.
yeah,
Yeah.
is the heart of the person. And also it's not about because you know, we were commenting about this Tuesday, and it was about God do not need to be defended his honor.
Right.
Okay, it's like I was putting an example. For example, if the sun, for example, the sun is for everyone. Okay,
Right.
good and evil people.
Right.
Okay, and no matter if you say to the sun, or I don't love you because you are so hot today, and you are so shining, I don't want you, and I hate you.
I don't
The
believe in
sun,
you.
I don't believe in you, son. The sun will be there, and he doesn't care if you are happy or not
Right.
with his power. Okay,
Right. Right.
so is the very same for God.
Right. It's a beautiful example.
Yeah, and that the point is, God is like that. God is not less God because you say, oh, I don't believe in you, God. You do
Right.
not exist.
Exactly.
He's eternal. He's forever.
Exactly.
Okay. So and I remember these words of Rabbi. I have a God who doesn't need to be defended.
Right.
Okay. My God is enough God to defend himself. He doesn't need my help. So the point is, for that reason, for me, Pinchas was not really defending God's honor, I would say. he was
Interesting.
defending an act of immorality.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, for example, when I punish my kids, I have to say, hey, stop.
Yeah.
Stop to punch each other. Okay, for
Right.
example, and I have to separate them and say, stop. Okay,
Yeah.
that
Right.
is Pinchas. Okay, it's not about, oh, God is right now angry with all of you because you are fighting each other. It's not about that. It's just to stop something, and that's what happened. Stop
Yeah.
the flag. Okay.
We see
Uh,
that with the two brothers, one who formed the Irgun and one who formed the Haganah. The Irgun were always like the Pinchas, going and killing, you
Yeah.
know, and it didn't work.
Yeah. So that is very beautiful, and then also this portion talks about woman rights,
Right.
which is very interesting because the girls of Zelofehad, even Moshe didn't know how to
To deal with
solve
it.
the problem,
Right.
how to deal with this problem, because for that moment, woman did not have any right to have any inheritance.
Right.
And now is the very first time, and it's like, oh, what can I do? Okay. And we see God saying, hey, be just with these girls, and this breaks a paradigm of that time.
Right.
So it's very, very, very beautiful.
Yeah. Beautiful message.
Just one thing about the whole idea, like, of sexuality, like when you see a lot of cults, and you were saying, Peggy, about New Age, etc., etc., but you see, for example, in witches' covens, or not only the cult of Pan and all these cults, the Greek gods and all that, always involved a form of sexuality. It's not the sex itself that's wrong. It's how it's almost brings a sense of power to the human being. Like, look at my power.
Right.
And it's expressed sexually. And so that's why when God gave even certain parameters for sexuality, it's not about sex. Sex is sex. You know, when he said, well, a man shall leave his house, and a woman and a man shall come together, it doesn't diminish the sexual power.
Right.
But people use sex as power, especially in witches' covens. It's an issue of power. And it's shunning God, because it's turning the back on God and look at my power. Like, sexuality really has to do with power.
Right.
And both men and women, it has to do with power. And you see, even in this passage, how people abused even sexuality and used it in a way to, I don't know, I just noticed that even in that realm, it's even beyond sex. It's when we start to create things ourselves and take on the power ourselves, when it's used, like you see even in cults with what's his name, what was his name, that
Manson.
Charles Manson, and all the different cults that use sexuality. It has to do with power. It's not even, about males having this kind of sexuality and that, because God allows for that. There is a difference between men and women, but
Right.
it's expressed in a healthy way.
Right.
So anyway, I just found that interesting.
And it's interesting that the Bible keeps giving us formulas and pictures and prototypes. And it's like you said, Mauricio, that man is attracted by what he sees and woman by what she hears. We go back to the first two prototypes, Adam and Eve. Adam, when Eve was enticed to eat the fruit, it was because of what she heard. You too will be like God. She wanted the power. Adam, who's was in love with her, attracted to her with his eyes, said nothing to stop her. that the whole picture is right there, right from the very beginning, that just keeps being repeated in a larger scale as we go down through the ages. The pictures are repeated. He didn't protect the woman. And today men are not protecting their women. Women want to be the heads, the top, they want the power. These pictures keep repeating throughout the centuries. It's like the birth pangs until God finally says enough. And we don't know when that's going to happen, but hopefully one day, maybe we'll get to see it in our time. We don't know. But again, thank you everybody for being here in the service with us, for participating, for Mauricio. I always learned from you and appreciate your teachings. Thank you. And in a way, I'm glad I didn't get to speak to you first so that I could see things in my own way, and then you can show me another. That's the beautiful, multifaceted way of looking at our Torah. It's wonderful. And I think our Rabbi would be happy that we've become like his Joshuas, that we can continue the work that he began here. And may we continue. Miriam, thank you for your input. Rhonda, it's good to see you. And as Percy would say, Rhonda, be quiet. You talk too much.
How are David and Shoshi doing?
Yeah, they're doing fine. They had a good, I talked with them last night and this morning. They're on their way back. They'll be here around 5. They had a really good time.
Wow, so they went also to Disneyland.
No, they only,
not Disneyland.
Only a cruise.
Oh, right.
Only a cruise.
Yeah.
I would like to be just on only a cruise.
And when are you going?
August 31st
through
the September 9th. I'll be here for a few days in between, but from August 31st to September 9th.
Good. All right. Well, let's continue to keep each other in prayer, that God would help us to have a Brit Shalom and live up to
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Alvarado, Shabbat Shalom. Itid, Brian, Baruch, Mauricio, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And we'll see you, God willing, next week. Next week, Mauricio, you're doing Matot Maseh, right? Thank you. God bless you all.